morning and thanks for joining us. I'm Paul Armstrong from Reed Corporate. Happy St Patrick's Day. We can't promise to bring you a four-leaf clover today, but we are offering what could well be the next best thing. It's an exceptional gold copper porphyry discovery in Ecuador called Alba. The discovery by Sunstone Metals is still in its early stages, but the assays from the first 5 holes shows it has high grades of copper and gold, up there with some of the best porphyries in the world. And today Sunstone has released the results of a geophysical survey which maps this system to 1 kilometre deep or more. So we know Alba has good grades, and now it looks like it has substantial scale to go with it. Sunstone says that in light of today's results, it's going to relocate a 3rd rig to Alba to accelerate a maiden resource. Sunstone's got the money for the job. It has $12 million in cash and equities. It also has a second major porphyry discovery in the north of Ecuador called El Palmar. I'll now pass over to Sunstone Managing Director Malcolm Norris, who'll explain why he thinks Alba is something very special. When Malcolm's finished, we'll happily take questions. Please write them into the tab on the right side of your screen, send them through, and at the end of the presentation, we'll put them to Malcolm. Over to you, Malcolm.
Very good. Thanks very much, Paul. Appreciate that. And this webinar is following on from the announcement we put out on the ASX platform earlier today, but we also put out a release last week which talked about the drill hole assays from Alba. So both of these releases are coming together. I'll talk about that today, and I'll also give you a general update on what we're doing here at Sunstone. We're very, very busy. We've got a lot of work going on. We've got 2 projects that are both delivering very, very good results. So we're obviously feeling very bullish. This is exploration. It's still early days in some respects, but these results are very, very good. And as Paul said, we've got good grade at Alba. We've now added potential for very significant scale. So there's time for a rethink on the opportunity at Bramaderos, without doubt. So let me go through this. I will be making some forward-looking statements. We are an exploration company, so I will be doing that. But obviously, these statements are made in the light of the data that we've generated and released over the last few months. So just quickly about the company. We have a market cap today of about 170 million or thereabouts. So we've come off a little bit based on our 30-day average share price. We're very well funded. We've got cash and equity investments. So that's split about half cash, half equity. Those equity investments are in a NASDAQ Stockholm listed company. There's no restrictions on those. We can trade them and we have traded them. So we consider that as good as cash. 2.2 billion shares on issue. Top 20 has been very stable for the last 7 or 8 years, and they've supported us strongly through good times and bad, and obviously reaping some rewards at the moment. And board and management, we have participated in almost all the placements that we've undertaken in the last 8 years. So we're absolutely aligned with shareholders with a good holding there of nearly 5%. So it's a really simple story. Sunstone has evolved over the last few years, and we've evolved in a direction that we always intended to go, and that is to go and look for and discover large gold copper porphyry deposits. We've had a track record of discovering these in the past, so the team at Sunstone has been involved in 2 very significant discoveries, one in Indonesia, Tujuh Bukit, and one in Ecuador at Cascabel when we're involved in those companies. And they have returned very significant shareholder value increase, and that's our goal here at Sunstone, to do the same. Our team in Australia and Ecuador is first class. Our team is growing rapidly in Ecuador, very strong. They've been able to implement these programs during COVID lockdowns and restrictions of travel and various other challenges, and they've done a great job. And we're focused on 2 projects. So Bramaderos, which will be the focus of today's discussion, that includes the Alba Target. We own 87.5% of that project, and the minority loan carried joint venture partner there is Canadian company Cornerstone Capital, who just happened to also be the partner at Cascabel in a minority position as well. At Alba, with the good results we've delivered over the last few months, we've got 2 rigs on site now. We're adding a third soon. I'll talk about how we're managing that process when we talk in detail about the project. We've just completed a large geophysical survey at Alba. We're now completing a very similar survey at Limon. Limon is shaping up as a target that's potentially similar to Alba. We've delivered ore grade intercepts from the Brahma porphyry, which is a porphyry that's outcropping, so that's at surface mineralisation. We've recently stated that we expect to deliver a mineral resource estimate for Brahma and Alba during 2022. And then we've now got several other targets based on the work we've done over the last few months that look quite similar to Alba, all within the 5,000 hectare concession. We also hold 70% of the El Palmar gold copper porphyry project in northern Ecuador. We can very simply move to 100%. That's based on a single cash payment of $2 million US, and we can make that any time between now and the 1st of July 2024 at our election. It's in the same belt as the giant Cascabel gold copper porphyry deposit and the Lurimagua copper moly porphyry deposit. We've drilled 14 holes. We've released 6 to the market. I'll go through those towards the end of this presentation. We've got 2 rigs on site. That will come back to 1 because of the increased rigs at Alba, and I'll explain why. The first 6 holes, we've delivered a significant gold copper porphyry discovery. There's no doubt about that. And we're now trying to get our hands around scale, geometry, and those sorts of things that you do during the early stages of a drill out on a porphyry. Very significant upside to be delivered in this area. This is a big mineralized system, and so we're working hard to demonstrate that. So just briefly on Ecuador. Ecuador geologically is a wonderful place to explore. It's the extension of the Andean Cordillera that goes through Chile and Peru and hosts the world's largest porphyry copper gold deposits. So geologically, it's exactly the right place to be. In terms of exploration maturity, it's not particularly mature. It hasn't had a lot of foreign investment except for the last roughly 10 years. So there's huge opportunity here, and we're starting to see that now. So Fruta del Norte is a high-grade underground gold mine that's operating. That's a modern mine. Lundin Gold have done an absolutely superb job in bringing that mine into production. And it's really demonstrating what a positive impact responsible mining can have on a country and local communities and all stakeholders. Mirador, that's a large open pit porphyry deposit, low grade. They produce a concentrate that's trucked to the coast and shipped off to China. So they're the 2 operating mines. And then there's this portfolio of other projects that are coming through the development pipeline: Cascabel, Cangrejos, Lurimagua, Warintza, we would argue El Palmar and Bramaderos. So these are really significant developments that will come down the pipeline over the next few years. And importantly, the current Ecuadorian president has been very vocal and public in his endorsement of responsible mining. And they see the government of Ecuador and the people of Ecuador see mining as one lever to pull to significantly enhance GDP in Ecuador and lift the economy, which requires lifting. So it's certainly an industry that gets support at the moment, and we expect will continue to get support. Before we go to projects, we'll talk about briefly about what we're doing in areas of community safety and environment. We take this extremely seriously. We are doing a lot of good work. You'll see more and more of this from us in terms of reporting and public disclosure. We're involved in significant environmental monitoring programs. We have nurseries at both projects, and we're involved in reforestation programs. We distribute some of those trees to local farmers to allow them to reforest areas. We're involved obviously in COVID vaccination programs and other community health programs. We support the communities wherever we can. We offer significant employment. We're involved in upgrading local roads so that farmers are able to get their product to market. So we're doing a lot, and this is the way an exploration company has to operate, and we do this with a lot of energy and a lot of commitment. So as I said, you'll see a lot more of this coming from us over the next period. Okay, so let's talk about today's announcement. So this is the Bramaderos concession, 5,000 hectares, and it's got multiple porphyry opportunities. So they're labelled there: Limon, Playas, Brama, Alba, Melanal, Portillo, Sandia. The background image is gold in soils, so that you can see there's a lot of gold distributed through this concession. Now, our attention historically has been on Brama, where we've drilled a lot of holes, and we're basically following up surface outcrop of a gold-copper porphyry system. We've drilled a few holes at Limon. We've intersected mineralisation, but not yet ore grade, but that will come. We're confident of that. And then we, late last year, drilled some holes at Alba, and that delivered a significant step change in the quality of this opportunity. This is high-grade gold and high-grade gold copper in a porphyry system that today we're demonstrating has significant scale. So we've got follow-up drilling in progress. There's a lot of activity around that. We've just finished a large geophysical survey. We've also commenced, we're almost finished, in fact, a geophysical survey at Limon. And then we've got all these other targets that we need to follow up on as well, which we'll get to over time. So this is what it looks like. Upper left photo, that's looking down the valley. So the road you see in that photo is actually the Pan American Highway. So this is a high quality bitumen road which runs through the western portion of our concession. Luckily, it doesn't cut across target areas, but it goes close to them. So logistically, we're very well supported. The prominent hill in the foreground is in fact Brama Hill. So the Alba discovery is just on the back side of that hill, just on the other side from our view here. So again, very good access. Upper right is a drone photo of our core facility within the project and our small nursery. And again, the road that goes past that is the Pan American Highway, so a good quality bitumen road. You can see that we get around the project using a thing called an iron horse, which is a motorized trolley, and that moves drill components and drill core and various things. So our impact on the area is quite minimal. And also you can see in the background of that bottom left photo, the area is actually pretty sparsely vegetated. It's marginal agriculture. The wet season is about 3 months. We're just coming to the end of that now, but for the other 9 months, it's extremely dry and quite arid at times. And then the core processing facility, very well set up. We've got a large group of geologists there logging all the core that we're generating from 4 drill rigs across the country. Okay, so this is what Alba looks like, and on the left is a drill status plan. You can see Brama there, enough drill holes to estimate a mineral resource, but we'll add a couple more over the next couple of months. And then Alba, T1 to T5 are targets that we're focusing on with our drilling. And then on the right-hand side there, you can see the drill holes that we've announced starting last November and then more recently last week as well, where we've got visible gold scattered through some of the drill holes. And we've got drill hole results, including 111 at 2.3 grams of gold in hole 12. We've got 220 metres at 0.6 gold and 0.13 copper in the porphyry. And that includes intervals such as 60 metres at 1 gram of gold and nearly 0.2 copper. So these are seriously high-grade porphyries, and we expect to deliver more of these. So just keep in mind how that sits, and we'll have a look at the impact of the geophysics that we've just done in a couple of slides' time, just to show you the scale that we're now adding to this system. Okay, so these are the results that we've published. I've highlighted a few here that I've just mentioned. Obviously, the 7 metres at 27 grams, visible gold in that drill core, but we also saw visible gold in other holes, hole 13, hole 20. They were related to lower grade gold intervals. There's obviously a bit of a nugget effect going on here, so more drilling will tell us the distribution of this upper high grade gold zone. But then we're seeing this significantly high grade gold copper porphyry sitting underneath it, so the 60 at 1 plus 0.2 as I mentioned earlier. And then hole 22, we actually finished in mineralisation. So we're just finding our way with this deposit, and we finished the hole a bit too early, but we've gone back down and extended that by another 130 metres, and those assays are pending. So we're hoping to have those results within the next couple of weeks. This is what it looks like. So upper right, intensely veined porphyry system. This is some pretty serious veining. So this rock has seen a huge amount of fluid. We're in the upper levels of a porphyry. We know that from the geological work we've done. So these are really encouraging to see. And through this, we're seeing copper as chalcopyrite, but we're also seeing bornite and coverlite. So those are much higher tenor copper minerals. So that explains some of the higher grade copper intervals that we're seeing. And then some photomicrographs here, just showing that we have actually got gold and copper in this rock, but we've got a gold pyrite, albite and hydrite association, and part of this work tells us that we are in the upper parts of a porphyry, and so our confidence for a significant vertical extent is increased, and that led us to do the geophysics. So this is what we've announced today. It's a really exciting development. We know we've got some high grade in the upper 300 metres of this system from drilling. We've undertaken what's called a magnetotelluric survey, so that's mapping conductivity or resistivity of the rock, and that is correlating extremely well with these mineralized intervals in our drill holes and extending that anomaly to a depth of in excess of 1,000 meters. So that's our drill target, and we've started drilling that at the moment. So hole 26 that you can see in that diagram, that's about to start. They've just about set the rig up on the pad. Hole 25 is in progress. That's off this section. And then we'll have the third rig coming to site within the next month. And that also will be aimed at drilling enough holes to estimate a mineral resource for Alba plus Brahma during 2022. Now, the reason we're borrowing a rig, if you like, from El Palmar to bring down here is twofold. One is to accelerate our work here. We really want to know quickly just how significant Alba is and how significant the related targets are. And then we also need a bit of room, if you like, at El Palmar. We're completing a geophysical survey there, which has an impact on drill holes that are nearby. And we're 6 holes behind in public disclosure for assays and logging and things. So we're catching up on that, and we're modifying the way we work. So with 2 projects, it introduces that flexibility that we need to move rigs around to the highest priority at any time. And then in 2 or 3 months, we'll send the rig back to El Palmar, or we'll add another rig to El Palmar. We have that flexibility. Now, this is the geophysical survey. So let's come back to the start and look at the entire concession. So I've just been talking about Brahma and Alba. We've got multiple targets generated from all data sets, so surface geochemistry, in this case, this is gold, but also from the geophysical survey just completed. And there's at least 5 targets within the immediate vicinity of Alba that are going to see some drill holes in the next few months. We've just about completed a large survey at Limon, and the reason we go to Limon is we've drilled 4 holes here. We've intersected porphyry mineralisation that wasn't quite ore grade, but we've also intersected high sulfidation mineralisation, copper and gold, that was drilled in 2019 and 20. And that high sulfidation mineralisation and alteration is very similar to what we're seeing in the upper levels of Alba. So it gives us increased confidence that at Limon, if we undertake this geophysical survey, interpret it as we have at Alba, we've learned some lessons there, and plan some drill holes, we're feeling pretty confident that we'll somewhere within this Limon survey discover more significant mineralisation. Once we've done that, we then turn our attention to these other targets. Plias, which is down to the south of Limon, Portillo, which is south of Alba, a very large gold anomaly. So huge upside potential at this project, and we will build these. Our resource estimate for 2022 will be an initial resource for 2 of the targets, but we'll then have another 4 or 5 targets following through in the pipeline. Okay, so let's go to the north, to El Palmar. El Palmar is ideally located geologically. We're on the same corridor that includes the 1 billion tonne Lurimagua deposit, which is a copper moly porphyry. We're on the same geological belt that includes the 3 billion tonne Cascabel deposit. So exactly the right regional domain in which to be exploring for gold copper porphyry systems. These are the results that we've put out into the market in public announcements on the ASX. Again, at this stage, this is a gold-dominated gold copper porphyry system. We're expecting increased copper grades as we do more drilling, but we've got some pretty significant gold grades here. And we're seeing intervals such as 167, 0.6 gold, 0.3 copper. 163 at 0.7 gold, 0.2 copper. So these are some very high grades, and these are close to surface. And they're within intervals such as nearly 500 metres at 0.4 gold and 0.15 copper. So a mineralised gold copper porphyry from surface, very early days. We are undertaking some more geophysics at the moment. We're doing a lot of drilling. We're catching up with all our logging. And there'll be a lot of news flow on this project over the next few months and for the remainder of 2022. So what do we know now about the mineralised system? Well, all we've explored is the main target area, and yet we've got a cluster of these targets. So the main target area is this magnetic anomaly that's shown on the left, 700 metres diameter, and we've really focused on the southeast corner because this is where we've seen mineralisation at surface and where we want to understand the geometry. We're now starting to test with a current hole the northwest portion of this area. But what we see is 3 rocks all introduced into the system at about the same time, all mineralised. And where you get those 3 rocks overlapping with one another, your mineralisation tends to be higher grade. And then the mineralisation also occurs in the surrounding rocks, but decreases in grade as you move away from these syn mineral intrusives. So we're starting to get a handle on the geology, and that's obviously guiding our mineralisation targeting. What we did find in this upper portion is that there's a good relationship between gold, copper, and how magnetic the rocks are. And so that has absolutely guided our drilling in the upper 600 metres of the system. So we've also tried to test the deeper parts of this system. Now, the reason we're doing that is on the left is a slice through the 3D magnetic model for El Palmar. The upper 600 metres of this system is being tested by a majority of the drill holes, and it's primarily the upper part on the right-hand side of this left-hand image. We're trying to test what's shown on the left-hand side of this image. We sort of failed with hole 5 because it hit an aquifer and we had to stop, but we've now got a hole going down through that magnetic body at the moment, and we are encouraged by what we see. And then we're trying to test the deep parts of this target. And the reason we're doing that is because as a direct comparison to Cascabel, which is shown on the right, the bulk of that ore body starts at about 650 metres below surface. And that's where you're seeing a significant greater than 0.9% copper equivalent domain. Now, at El Palmar, we tried testing it with hole 9. That hole lifted and deviated, and but was mineralised through to the bottom of hole. And we've got a portion of that hole in the laboratory at the moment, and we hope to have those assays back within the next 2 weeks. So that will start to tell the story of what we're seeing nearby with this magnetic anomaly. We then tried drilling hole 12, which we drilled to 1200 metres. We did see copper distributed throughout that hole. But what surprised us is that the hole wasn't as magnetic as we were expecting. So again, we've probably gone down a flank, and we're rerunning the magnetic model at the moment with the information from holes 9 and 12. We'll come up with a more robust model, and we'll chase this deeper ore body again. But the encouragement comes from mineralisation in holes 9 and 12 throughout those holes. So we know that we've got copper mineralisation at depth. We now chase ore grade copper mineralisation, and we're confident it's there. So in addition to the vertical extent, we're testing, as I said, this cluster of other targets. So our focus has been this essentially outcropping at surface magnetic anomaly, and that's where all our drilling has been. But we're testing these other ones which have a more subtle magnetic feature, but that's purely and simply related to the amount of cover, the depth of the system, any other feature that we're able to glean from an interpretation of the geochemistry and the geology. For example, the northeast target, northeast of the main anomaly, we're actually seeing metal anomalism that tells us we're in the uppermost parts of a porphyry there. So again, we expect a porphyry at depth. Southeast target, we have got some outcropping mineralisation, so we're in the process of testing that. And then further southeast, we've got these very interesting magnetic anomalies, which again suggest that they're linked to deeper magnetic targets. So a lot of work to do and a lot of drilling to do. And once we finish our current geophysical survey, an MT survey, similar to what we've done at Alba, we'll then reprioritise all the drill holes and get cracking on El Palmar as well. Okay, so what's ahead of us? The goal, obviously, this year is to demonstrate significant, very large upside at both projects, and that will include a mineral resource estimate for a component of the Bramaderos project covering Alba and Brahma. So we've got 2 rigs at Alba currently working, a third to be added in late March, and as I said, borrowed from El Palmar for a focused 2-month drilling program, and that enables us to get into El Palmar and do more geophysics and catch up on the logging. The electrical geophysics, great result from Alba. It gives us a lot of confidence that we've got high grade and now scale. And Le Mans, we expect to repeat that story. That initial mineral resource in late 2022, and then we're chasing all these other targets. So target-rich environment, lots of drilling required, and off we go. We're capable of doing that. At El Palmar, 2 rigs currently drilling. They're on holes 15 and 16. We're going to allow Bramaderos to borrow one of those rigs for a couple of months, and then we'll be back with 2 rigs a bit later in the year at El Palmar. We've released holes 1 to 6, and these others are coming through the system. So holes 7 and 8, we hope won't be too far away. Hole 9 won't be too far away, as I mentioned, the first of the deep holes. And then the others are coming through the system with logging and assays. We expect to be able to give an update on the deep drilling within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Once we get these assays back, rerun the mag model, and get a start on the MT geophysical survey. Soil sampling, it's expanding our target coverage. Geological mapping, we've got all sorts of interesting epithermal targets in the northern part of the project that we haven't yet touched. And then expanding our drilling, as I said, not only on that main anomaly, but also on those satellite targets. So that comes back to the fundamental target during 2022 of delivering very large upside at El Palmar. So thank you very much. That's the presentation. Certainly happy to take questions, and hopefully I've given you a good update of where we're at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Fantastic presentation. A lot of information there. There's a few people who would like to know more, Malcolm, so I'll put a couple of questions to you that have come through to us. Paul Howard, an analyst at Canaccord, asks, is there an option to increase your ownership of Brahma from 87.5% to 100%?
Okay, so look, the structure of that agreement is that we are funding that project at 100%, and Cornerstone Capital, the TSXV listed company, is a loan carried joint venture partner. So they're accumulating a debt on that 12.5% that is repayable from future revenue, and we basically skim off 90% of that money that would otherwise flow through to Cornerstone to pay back that debt. So it's a very good structure for us, in fact. Is there the ability to go to 100%? On the current agreement, no. You never know what happens, but on the current agreement, No. I should say that our relationship with Cornerstone is very, very strong. We've known those people for 20 years. We did the deal when we were at SolGold. We did the deal on Cascabel because they held that property. We speak regularly. So if it's in shareholders' interests to revisit that agreement, then that's what we'll do.
Thanks, Malcolm. Another viewer has asked if the assay times are improving. Who are the assay companies, and are the turnaround times getting any better?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting situation at the moment. So the standard turnaround time is 8 weeks. If we pay an increased fee, we can bring that down to 4 weeks by putting it on high priority. What we're finding is that when we talk to others, particularly in North America, the big delays in assay turnaround time are actually at the sample preparation phase of the process, and that's at the front end. Now, all our sample preparation gets done at a sample prep facility in Ecuador. So they're actually very efficient, and they're doing a good job. So that's why our turnaround times are 4 weeks on high priority and 8 weeks standard. They're nothing like the several months that some people have reported in other parts of the world. So, look, we're working to that timetable. We're not planning for that to change. We're actually improving the way we handle the core on site. So our logging is being sped up. Our cutting of core is being sped up. We're buying additional core saws. We're employing additional geotechs. That's really where we need to focus, because with 4 rigs and hopefully more, we can then have very constant news flow once that whole logistics train, if you like, is smoothed out and operating well. And we're comfortable that we'll get there over the next few weeks.
Another question, Malcolm has asked if you could outline your quarterly cash burn.
Yeah, so last quarter we reported expenditure of $3.7 million Australian. So that's increased a little bit based on the additional level of activity. So that's the current burn rate.
And here's a question that probably cuts to the chase, Malcolm. I'll read it as it's come in. If current grades at Alba are confirmed to persist to 1 kilometre deep, how would this discovery compare with some of the major discoveries in Ecuador, such as Cascabel?
It would compare very well. Now, there's two components to this answer. Alba itself, we're seeing potential, yet to be drilled, but potential for a roughly 1,000 metre vertical extent. We're seeing indications from drilling and geophysics that it might be a 250 metre wide system. But that's just Alba. We've got the Brahma system, which we've drilled out, and we've got plans to include that in the mineral resource. I feel very bullish about Limon. We had a go at drilling that on you could argue limited data, and didn't quite hit the ore body, but I feel very bullish about that. Melanal, which is just nearby Alba, is another one. These new targets that have come out of Alba. So you start to talk about a cluster of systems, and if we can deliver on some of those, even if it's just half of them, then this will definitely be a significant discovery.
And one final question, Malcolm. Malcolm, you and your team have done this twice before. How does Alba compare with your discoveries previously?
Yeah. Well, it generates just as much excitement. It's a very exciting development in its early days. Each discovery is a bit different to the last one. Tujuh Bukit in Indonesia was very exciting because we had a gold-silver cap sitting on top, and that's being mined at the moment by Medeka. The porphyry system was phenomenal. We had some really wide intersections there. A lesson we learned from Tujuh Bukit, and this was given in a presentation some years ago, is that the previous explorer had drilled a hole, well targeted. They stopped the hole, and it was 100 metres away from a 2 billion tonne ore body. So the irony in porphyry exploration is that these are really big systems, but they're really hard to find. And I encourage you to go back and look for that presentation. I think it was back in about 2012 from memory. So someone had missed a 2 billion tonne ore body by 100 metres, a bit of bad luck. You could argue that we got a bit lucky with drilling at Alba because we just had to test this anomaly before we actually sent the rig away, and that test delivered a great result. But you know, you're only as lucky as how hard you work and how carefully you look at your data. So we've certainly generated our own luck on that one. So yeah, it's very exciting.
I misled you, Malcolm. There wasn't a final question. There's a couple more. Paul Howard has popped up again. He asks, is there a chance that Brahma, Alba and Lemon all join at depth?
Brahma and Alba, yes, and that's the suggestion that we're getting from geophysics. So the geological system, we're very confident, joins at depth. Now, whether that will be as well mineralized or not, we have to test with drilling, obviously. But as part of the exploration program and exploration concept, yes, they do. Lemon, no. We think that's a geologically related but geometrically separate system.
Another viewer has asked, Malcolm, if the deposits are what you expect them to be and they prove to be highly economical, does Sunstone plan to develop a mine or sell the resource?
Yeah, well, that comes down to what's best for shareholders. And we will continually revisit those options plus others as we go through this process. Now, the team at Sunstone is capable of taking this work well and truly through studies, depending upon the scale of the opportunity. Sunstone may be able to develop it, but maybe if it's as big as what we expect to deliver, it's something that would need to be developed in partnership or by someone else. So, you know, it's impossible to say how far down the path we'll take it. It depends on what's best for shareholders, and that'll dictate our decisions here.
Now, here's one for the geophysicists amongst us, Malcolm. A viewer has asked, in the MT data, is the mineralisation coincident with the higher resistivity, not the higher conductivity?
Yeah, so I'm not a geophysicist, but yes, it's coincident with the higher resistivity. And so in addition to the MT survey, we undertook a conventional, what's called a conventional pole-dipole induced polarization, so IP survey. And that saw down to probably 250 to 300 meters below surface, so no deeper than our current drilling. And it generated a chargeability anomaly in the area of mineralization. So that chargeability anomaly, we assume, is primarily related to distribution of metal, and that chargeability anomaly has a diameter of about 250 meters, so that correlates well with our drilling as well. So coincident IP chargeability in the upper zones, but we know that from drilling anyway, that's where the mineralization is, and then resistivity trending to depth, correlating with we think the intrusive that's mineralized.
I think on that technical note, Malcolm, that might be a good place to leave it. Look, thank you very much for your time. Fantastic presentation. Obviously, Alba looking very exciting. We look forward to some more news there in coming weeks. All the best with it, Malcolm. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, and thank you to everyone for listening. Thanks for the questions. Always happy to talk about Sunstone. Thank you.
Thank you.